positive benefit, and that's on pollution.
Yes, so marine shipping causes a lot of air pollution in our region. In Ventura County, for example, where I live, ocean-going vessels contribute about 40% of the total NOx emissions in the county. That's nitrogen oxide's principal component of smog. So what happens is when you slow down ships, they burn less fuel, and that means less air pollution. The program estimates since the inception, thousands of tons of smog-causing emissions and tens of thousands of greenhouse gas emissions have been avoided. To paint a picture of what this means for communities, I'm bringing in Giles Pettifor now. He's the environmental manager at the Port of Wainimi. The port is one of the partners in the incentive program, along with local air pollution control districts. And besides getting ships to burn less fuel on their way to the ports, they're also working on getting them to plug into shore power rather than burning their engines the whole time they're sitting there in the port. Here's what those improvements have meant for local residents.
We've talked to folks in the community here that have lived next to the port for decades. And they would talk about back in the day, before our shore power system, which allowed those ships to plug in and shut off those diesel engines, they would say come out of their apartment in the morning and they would have to hose off their patio furniture, or they would have to wipe off the windshield of their car in the mornings because of that accumulation of soot particles from the ambient air around the port. And how now that no longer is the case.
Yeah, that's terrific. What have the shipping companies been saying?
I spoke to two of the biggest global shipping companies for the podcast episode, Maersk and Hapag-Lloyd. In 2021, those two companies slowed down in the Santa Barbara Channel about 85% of the time. They say slowing down is now part of their ship's GPS, and they do it when it's safe and feasible. Remember, they have these tight schedules and time slots at the ports to keep on top of. And depending on how much they slowed down, shipping companies were rewarded between $5,000 and $50,000 per company.
Wow.
But here's the interesting part. A lot of the shipping companies will donate the money back into the program. Maersk has done this for the last 2 years. For Hapag-Lloyd, they gave their incentive money to the Seafarers mission, who they said were instrumental in helping their seafarers with amenities during the pandemic. So they're happy to be part of the program, but it really is part of their larger environmental goals. Both these companies have zero emissions goals, and they're also hearing it from their customers as well, who want to make their supply chains even greener. Here's Lee Kinberg, the head of environment and sustainability at Maersk North America.
About 2/3 of our top 200 customers have set zero carbon goals. So delivering to them an environmentally safe product where they have actually the data to show that they're doing the right thing is very important to companies like the Amazons, the Nikes.
Yeah, and if the companies like this incentive program, why not just make it a requirement?
Regulations. If this program is helping whales, it's improving air quality, and most of the shipping companies are literally on board, it makes sense to ask, why not just make it mandatory? Well, it's not like this is a foreign idea in the US. Regulations already exist on the East Coast. Well, despite being considered at the federal and state levels before, the answers I got for those who make regulations for protecting whales is that because overall whale populations are recovering, individual whale strikes seem to be less concerning to regulators now. It just seems that incentives rather than regulations can continue to be the preference. And I put this idea of regulations to shipping companies.
Force people to
For
do
them,
something.
it's all about fairness.
Because then they're not gonna do
Basically,
it.
they said if mandatory slowdowns are implemented, they want all stakeholders involved. But here's the key thing, they want it to be enforced. They don't want to be disadvantaged because they're following the rules and others aren't. And this is a good reminder because this is a voluntary program and not everyone is taking part. When I flew over the channel, I saw this ship that was going very, very fast, almost like it was trying to overtake the ship ahead of it. The current compliance for slowing down among ships traveling through the channel is 60%.
Well, that's not everybody, and people are not living up to the voluntary part of it. Is the voluntary part going to end soon, and can we see the return to speeding through the channel again?
Well, here's the interesting part is, sadly, after almost a decade of the Blue Whales and Blue Skies program, they don't have funding for the incentive part of the program for next year. But they are remaining optimistic, and they told me that they're planning on running the program again next year and hoping that the shipping companies who do get incentive awards will decline the money. They say at some future point they may have to or want to move away from financial incentives, but they're always going to need money for the running of this type of program, for data and PR and things like that.
Yeah, it strikes me that we all depend on the shipping to get our stuff delivered, right? So shipping happens because consumers need an item, whether that's individuals or companies. So I'm thinking, is there a way to know if your package comes from a ship that's slowing down or speeding up? And could you let them know that that's what you want?
There actually is, Ira. Earlier this year, the people behind the incentive program launched a brand ambassador initiative where brands who are interested in making their supply chain greener receive data on if their shipping companies are actually slowing down. The whole idea of this program is this information can be passed on to consumers, and they can add it to, their sustainability pages and things that we often see on websites. And we're seeing a few companies start to join up. But overall, it's this idea of the power of personal responsibility. A lot of people listening to Science Friday today care enough to say, how can I make a difference? And the idea is, if we insist on having whale and air-safe products next time we shop online, then companies along the entire supply chain will be pressured into delivering. And that means finding a solution to a massive air polluter in my region, and really what some believe is the last threat to endangered whale species.
Well, we're all rooting for the whales, rooting for less pollution in your area. Michelle, thank you for taking time to be with us today.
Thank you, Ira.
Michelle Loxton, podcast host and producer for KCLU NPR for the California coast, based in Thousand Oaks, California. She reports the story for KCLU's podcast 101. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, how ableism affects the kind of medical care disabled patients receive and what two doctors are doing.
Able.